What is up YouTube, IDM here, and welcome back to another video. So I'm going to show you guys how to get Webrcade on your iOS device. No computer is required to do this. Now a brief overview of what Webrcade is. Basically, it's a website that allows you to play your retro games through the cloud. This is not a streaming service, you're not streaming the games, so internet connection won't affect gameplay. It's pretty damn cool. Now some quick information about Webrcade before we get into the probably very long tutorial. It does require a controller. So you will need a controller to play your games. This works on the iPhone, this works on the iPad, you can do it on a computer, and you can even load it up on an Xbox and play there. But you do need a controller. Webrcade is not like Delta, where you have on-screen controls like this, like a controller overlay. It does not have that. It's basically just the game, and then it will auto-detect when you have a controller connected to your device, your computer, your iPhone, your Xbox, etc. Now, like I said, this is going to be a pretty long tutorial because there's a lot to talk about and to show. So what I'll do is I'll put timestamps down in the description if you guys need to jump around to any different part of this video if you're trying to get this up and running on your device. So just check out the description if you need to jump to a specific point of this video. But as you can see, I have 4 applications on the home screen here. Like I said, no computer is required, no side loading, no alt store. It just works from a website and it's pretty amazing. And the gameplay is actually really fun. It's pretty much lag free and it just feels like a great emulator. So we have Safari, we have Dropbox, and then Imager and Bitly are optional. You don't need 2 of the applications. I just have them to make this a little bit more customized and to just kind of show you the things you can do with Webrcade. But anyways, let's go back into Webrcade. Of course, I will leave the link for this down in the description as well. It's pretty straightforward. Simple website. If you scroll down here a bit, there's information about the website and how it all works. So if you need to read up on that, you can do so. And the first section we'll go into is the docs section here. So this is all the documentation for Webrcade. And the reason why I'm going to go in here is because I'm going to show you the supported systems for Webrcade, at least as of the making of this video. This is a very new service. I think it came out about a week ago. So there could be more systems added in the future, like Nintendo 64 or maybe even like Nintendo DS, stuff like that. But these are the current supported systems that you can play games on with Webrcade. So you got Atari, you got Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and then some Sega systems at the bottom. So those are the current supported systems. So just take note on that. If you're looking to play Nintendo 64 on Webrcade, it is currently not yet possible. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the main page of Webrcade, Webrcade is open source. So if you guys are into code and understand how these things work, if you want to contribute to Webrcade, you can do so on GitHub. Like I said, it is open source. They also have a Discord server, a YouTube channel, a Twitter, and a Facebook. So if you guys don't want to miss out on any updates, I'm sure you can figure out where to follow Webrcade. But it's pretty basic the way that it works. You have play, you have build, and then you have your documentation. So we'll go into play first, and what play is going to do is it's going to load up a default feed. This page is called the feed, and this is where you can play your games. Now on your iPhone, as soon as you have your controller connected, you can immediately start controlling this screen and going through the different systems and the different games. But you'll notice with the default feed, there is pretty much just free to play games. These aren't, you know, any main title games, they're just free to play, but that's kind of the point of it, is it's just showing you what the feed should look like. And then if we actually back out here, you can see from this view, you can add feeds. I have created one, and once you go into that feed, you then have access to all of your games. And that's the point of the website, really, there's two different ways you can load up your feed. You can have a URL, which I think is the coolest, and you can also use a file, and I'll show you guys both of these later in this video. But once you've created your feed, this is where you can gain access to it. You can gain access to it on your iPhone, on your computer, or on your iPad, or even on your Xbox, like I said, by using a URL or a file that you have created. So that's pretty much the play section there. Now into the build. So this is the purpose of this website, is to build a feed. So pretty much nothing is stored on this website. You're basically just telling Webrcade where your games are, where your images are, and it will pull all that information into the feed on its own. So if we go into build, this is what it's going to look like for you for the very first time. It's a default feed. You can see the thumbnail, the title. You also have categories here, so you can create your own categories. The default feed, I think, is built nicely. Each category is a system, so like Nintendo or Super Nintendo, but you're not limited to systems when you create these categories. If you wanted a category to be just adventure games for multiple different systems, you can do that by clicking the plus button there. And then as you can see, you have a breakdown of that category. You have a title, a long title, a description. You can add your own thumbnail. I'll show you guys how to do that in a minute. And you can add your own background. So you can really make it look pretty custom. Now I'm not going to create a category because, like I said, I like the way that the default categories is set up. I just really like the way that is. But the first thing you guys are probably going to want to do is edit the feed. Now you can change the title of the feed. So I'm just going to do that. And you can just, you know, name this to whatever you want, your name or whatever. You have a long title. So I could just do something like, I don't know. Something like that. Like I said, I'm just doing this for example. And then you can have a description, so if you want a description. And then you have your thumbnail. Now this is pretty cool as well because, like I said, everything that you put in here, you're not actually uploading it to Webrcade. You're just supplying links of these items wherever they are in the cloud. So for example, on Imager here, I uploaded a thumbnail that I created on my computer. And all thumbnails that are handled on Webrcade do have to be in a 300 by 400 pixel dimension. So that's what I've done, is I created this image, and all I got to do is from Imager is copy the link, and then I can go back to Webrcade and paste this link in here. We'll select all. If I can click the button, select all, and then I'll just paste in my link, and as you can see, it immediately loads up my thumbnail. This is the same for the background. So if we jump back to Imager, go into this background that I uploaded of just kind of a collage of games, I can go ahead and copy that direct link, jump back to Webrcade, and try to select all. There we go. And paste in that link. And as you can see, now I have customized my feed to have, you know, a custom title, a thumbnail, and a background. And at this point, you can just click OK, and now it will save that feed title that you've made edits to. Now the next part here is to break down the categories and to upload your games so that you can play your favorite retro games with Webrcade. Now what I've done beforehand, before creating this video, is I have uploaded all of my games from my Files application to Dropbox. Now I can't show you guys how to download games here on YouTube or how to get these games, but that's basically what I've done. Is I have in my Files application on my iPhone in iCloud Drive, I have folders set up for each system with all of my games in there. As you can see, for Game Boy, here are all of my games in the zip format. If you guys have any questions about the games, just feel free to hit me up on Twitter. But like I said, what I've done is I've taken all of those games and I've just simply uploaded them to Dropbox, and I have uploaded them in the same fashion as subcategories or systems-based folders. So Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, so on and so forth. So now these games are available on my Dropbox in the same format as in my Files application as a zip file. And that's how we're going to grant access to Webrcade to play these games. So for example, I'm going to go into the Nintendo category, and to go in here, you just click the games there. So as you can see, here are all of the free-to-play games that come with the default feed. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the free-to-play games because I don't really want those. So I just delete them by selecting all like that. Now to add all of my own Nintendo games, all you got to do is click the three dots there and do add from Dropbox. And then I'm going to back out to my retro games, and then we are doing Nintendo. So I'll just go into my Nintendo folder, and of course I can select every single game I have available. I have a lot, so I'm not going to do them all right now, but I will choose, let's say, I don't know, the first 3 games. So now I just click choose, and now Webrcade is going to analyze those games, and it will populate that category. Okay, and it just finished up. So now as you can see in this category, I now have these 3 games available to play. From this part, you can click play to test out the game to make sure it works. You can also click the kind of pencil icon here to make edits to the game itself. You have your title, long title, description, what application or system is it going to use, so you can specify all of that. Now, if you have clean games, clean ROMs basically in a zip format, this should all populate itself no problem. As you can see, I didn't edit any of this. I just uploaded the game to Webrcade, and basically it goes through and it populates the thumbnails and the backgrounds and the title and the description and everything, and I just leave it as is. But you can make edits to that, so if you want to change the thumbnail or if you want to change the background, that's how you can do it. Now let's go back to categories, and let's go into another system here. I think what I'll do is we'll switch over to items. This is another way you can kind of switch through your categories. We will choose the Game Boy because there's some cool options with this. So again, these are all of the free to play games, so I'm just going to delete those out. Go ahead and add my Game Boy games from my Dropbox, so Game Boy. And then I will choose, I don't know, the first 4 games here. Just click on choose. Again, Webrcade is going to analyze the games, where it's going to populate the titles, the thumbnails, the backgrounds, etc. Now within the Game Boy games, this is kind of a unique part of the edit option. So for the first game here, if we go over to the properties, as you can see, there is actually screen color options, which I thought was really cool. So if you don't want it to be grayscale, you can make it green scale. And there are different options for that green scale if you want to change it. So let's say we want this game in specific to be played at this green scale, we can just click on OK. We can go on to the next game, and we can change the properties of that game. So we could switch this to be a Super Game Boy color palette. And we can just click on OK. So now those games are going to have different scaling for its coloring, and I thought that that was really cool. That's a feature of Game Boy games on Webrcade. Other systems don't have that, I don't think. But just take note, there is some pretty cool stuff you can do, but that's pretty much the basics of getting your games. Now at this point, what I could do is go back and go through every category that I have games for and delete out the free-to-play games and upload all of my games to every single category or system. But I'm just doing this for demonstration purpose, so I think you guys get the idea on how to upload the games. Like I said, I went from my Files app to Dropbox, and then I just choose the Dropbox files from Webrcade. So now that you have created your feed and you have all of your games available, if you click on the sidebar here, you can see that you can import an existing feed, you can export the feed, you can test out the feed, you can load, and you can save. Now, if you plan on only using Webrcade on your iPhone, you can just click on save and it's going to save it locally and you will always have access to it. Now, I like to actually export the feed so that way I can have access to the feed that I've created from my other devices. So if I export this feed, I can do download, and it's going to export a .json file. So if I go to my downloads, you can see here, if I click on locate, the little magnifying glass on the right there, it is a JSON file. Now this file I could share with my computer or my iPad, and it would allow me to load up my feed. But what's cool is you can actually upload this JSON file to Dropbox, and then you can use the Dropbox download link and shorten that link with bit.ly, and then you can just enter in your feed from a link, and you will always have your feed in Dropbox. I know this part sounds kind of confusing, but I'll just kind of do my best to demonstrate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Safari here, and I'm going to go ahead and just back out of the build section. I've saved that feed, at least the file for it. So if I go to play, I can go ahead and select here, and you can see I can choose a URL or a file like I mentioned earlier. So if I want to load up this feed, I can just do File, choose File, and navigate to my downloads where it downloaded earlier, and then just choose that file, and it loads up the feed based off of that file. So if I go into, let's see here, we'll go into Game Boy, and you can see there are the games that I uploaded. So that's how I accessed the feed from just a file. But what I want to do is make it a link, because I feel like a link is easier to share between my iPhone and my iPad, or my Xbox, or my computer. So to do this, what we're going to do is go into our Files application, and I'm just going to go ahead and share this file with Dropbox. So we'll click on Share, and then I don't think Dropbox ever shows there for some reason, but if I scroll down, you can see there's Dropbox. Now I'm just going to save this to the Retro Games folder in which I have on Dropbox. It's going to upload this file to Dropbox. So now if I go into Dropbox, you will see there is my test file. Now from here we can click the three dots, we can click Share, we can do Share Link, and we can copy the link. Now that we have copied the link, we have to make an edit to it in order for Webrcade to be able to use it. So I like to go into my Notes app or Noto and just paste the link in. And then from here, I have to actually switch it to text. So here is the link. Now, for those of you that are going to try and use my link, I will be deleting everything after I make this video. So this is just for testing. So if you guys try to use this link, it's not going to work because it will be deleted. But with your Dropbox link now, this is a link to the JSON file. You need to make an edit to this link in order for it to work with Webrcade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the 0, the equals, the L, the D, and the question mark. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the www, and I'm going to replace that with just DL. And now after Dropbox, not DO, I don't know why it likes to autocorrect like that, so make sure that the link doesn't get messed up, because if it does, it won't work. Now after Dropbox, I'm going to put user content. So dl.dropboxusercontent.com, and then your link, and just make sure you delete out that last part like I showed you earlier. Now what you can do is you can select the link here. If I can select it properly, we can copy the link, and we can use a URL shortener to customize the link like bit.ly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do create. And like I said, I'm going to delete this, so don't try and use it. Of course, with bit.ly, you can customize the short link. So if you don't want it to say this at the end, you could do something like whatever you want. IDM demo link or something like that. But anyways, now that we have shortened the link, that is way easier to remember and to type out. So what I'll do is I'll just back out here, and what I'll do, actually we'll do share link, and I'm just going to copy this link. And now when we jump back into Webrcade, we can access that feed through the link in which is being hosted on my Dropbox. So now if I click play, and then we go to the add feed section, and we do by URL, as long as I did this correctly, all we got to do is paste in the URL and do OK, and now it's going to load up the feed based off of a URL. And that's pretty much how Webrcade works. So hopefully this video made sense. Hopefully you understand how Webrcade works. Pretty much what it is a template website for you to customize to your liking. It's pretty much just a template. You supply all of the links, all of the images, all of the information, and you use the Webrcade to get access to all of it. I prefer using the link method because then I can just remember a shortened link and I can hop on my iPad and I can access all of my games just from my feed by using a link, which I think is the easiest method. I think it's easier than trying to share a file, but the file is super easy as well, and as long as you save it in your Files app or even upload it to Dropbox, if you ever have to, restore your iPhone or your iPad, or you upgrade to a new iPhone, as long as it's in your Dropbox, you will always have access to it so that you will never lose your feed. And also, if you host all of your own games in your Dropbox, they can be forever found there, and you don't have to worry again if you update your iPhone or get a new iPhone or restore it or anything like that. You will always have access to this feed and to your games by simply using a URL or a file, which I think is really freaking cool. And also the gaming on the iPhone and the iPad through Webrcade has been absolutely amazing. There is virtually no lag. It runs just as a standalone application would on your device. Now there's one more quick trick that I wanted to show you guys before I end out this video, and that is how to add Webrcade to your home screen, because obviously that is what you want to do if you want to make this your gaming platform. And what you do is you just go into play, and then you can load up your feed. But from here, all you got to do is share this page and just simply add to home screen. And then you can change the name or whatever you want. I just like to click add. And as you can see, I have a standalone application now that when I load it up, it will load up in full screen, and I can play all of my games full screen with my controller connected, which makes it look completely seamless. It looks like it's its own application, and that is pretty much everything put together. And of course, once you've done this, you add your feed and it will be there available for you to play whenever you'd like. Okay, now that you have added the web page to your home screen, as you can see, I have my controller connected up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and launch the web page app. As you can see, like I said, this isn't an app, it's just a quick application shortcut to a web page, but pretty much it makes Webrcade full screen, as you can see here, and you can control your feed with the controller at this point. And I wanted to give you guys some quick tips here real quick before I close out the video. So of course, all games play as you would think they would. It's virtually lag free because this is cloud based. The website loads up the game and then you just play it. It's not being streamed or anything like that, so there should be no connection issues. And the way that the games save, I just wanted to add this quick, the way that you save your placement in the game is with the built-in saving functionality of that game. There's no save states like there is in Delta. You pretty much just save it as if you're on that console, and then when you go back into the game, you load it up as if you're on that console. There's no save states like I mentioned, and that's pretty much how it works, and it operates and plays just as you think it would. You just select your game, click play, and then you start playing whatever game it is you want to play. Now another tip here is that by default with iOS, it just always starts unmuted. All you got to do is touch the screen to unmute it. And then when you want to exit a game, all you got to do is touch the screen. And as you can see, I can return to browse or I can resume the game. But to exit the game, just click here. Just make sure that if you don't want to lose where you are in the game, use that in-game save functionality, and then you can go ahead and return to browse and exit that game. So that is Webrcade. That is how it works. Hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you did, definitely throw me a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot here at the channel. And if you guys want to see more videos like this in the future, don't forget to click that subscribe button. This has been IDM, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.